Welcome to the Sultans of Spine podcast. I'm your host, Jamil. Sultans of Spine is meant to introduce visionary and interesting people into your lives and tell their story, right? Storytelling is an art, and I consider that a gift of mine. And I am so excited to bring Greg Kinsey on the line because Greg and I go way, way back. Greg's been in the business for 14 years. He's from Philadelphia originally. Greg played collegiate basketball for Holy Cross. And Greg is one of the kindest, most unique, and just amazing souls that I know. And I mean that, Greg. I am so excited to have you on this podcast. And again, people ask me, "Wait, what are you doing a podcast? Like, what? You have a full-time job?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I do. And part of my job in my new role is to shed light and spread love, right, on what we are doing and the special people, not only in this industry, but around it, right? There's some ancillary things and some different people that, whether it's on the technology side or the wellness side or whatever, the finance, the real estate, right? There's a lot of ways we can take this. And that's why I feel, very excited about this Sultans of Spine podcast. But enough about me. Tell the audience about you. I mean, like we met, in 2010, going through sales training at NuVasive, same training class.
Yeah.
So,
wow, man.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for being on. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, well, before I kind of dig into me, I appreciate all your kind words. That means a lot. I think you might have overhyped me a little bit too much, but I'll take it, brother. I appreciate it.
No way, brother. You bet.
So for me personally, born and raised in Philadelphia, was an avid lover of basketball growing up, and that was my heart and soul for so long. And even at a young age, I was really dedicated to the sport. I was really dedicated to this idea of growth. I was really married to this idea of getting better every single day, and basketball just happened to be that particular area with which I chose to grow. So for almost every day for probably 15, 16 years, it was, doing something to get better within the sport. And I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to play ball at Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts. Had the best experience I could have ever had because I had that dream of playing D1 basketball, and then to get to that level and then to have success at that level and play in the NCAA tournament and play against guys that end up playing in the NBA, and you're watching on TV and like, oh my gosh, I got dunked on by that guy. It's a pretty cool experience to have, and pretty cool experience to look back on. And yes. I had so many amazing coaches and teammates. And I tell people all the time that sports in a large way is a microcosm of life, right? So if you could take certain elements that make you successful in sports and apply that to business, or apply that to family life, apply that to being a father or a mother, whatever it is, chances are you're going to maintain that level of success. So after Holy Cross, graduated with a bachelor's degree in economics and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I was fortunate enough to have some mentors and spent some time on Wall Street. So I spent some time at the JP Morgan office. And after about 4 hours, I was like, get me the hell out of here. I can't do this. Not
4 hours. You lasted that long. Nice.
Yeah, it didn't take very long. It was very quick, where the realization that Wall Street was not in my future. And then reached out to somebody else that I knew that was doing pharmaceutical sales and spent a day with them. Seemed like a pretty interesting job. So end up pursuing that and did that for about 2.5 years with Sanofi Aventis. And then a buddy of mine that went to Holy Cross, he was in med device sales, I want to say with Smith & Nephew. And he reached out and he said, I know that pharmaceutical sales is kind of getting stale for you. He's like, I think you'd be really good at this. So once we talked about the job and what the kind of the day-to-day looked like, it sounded super interesting. And one of the things that really bothered me about pharmaceutical sales was that it's almost like after a certain period of time, you become a glorified caterer. Right? Where you walk into the office and the office staff says, okay, what do you got today? What do we got? Ham sandwiches. We got pasta,
where's the food?
Pizza. What do we got? What kind of little trinkets do you have? staplers, pens, notepads. It was almost like you're walking in with a buffet of food and a buffet of promotional items. And I remember coming home a number of times, and like I said before, I'm so growth oriented. And I looked at myself, I'm like, what am I doing right now? Right. Like this, I'm not coming home feeling like I accomplished anything. And with medical device sales and with what, you and I have been doing for, 14 plus years now, is that a lot of days, and more often than not, I come home and say, you know what, I did something today. I prepared for this particular surgery. I prepared and I looked at the MRIs and the CT scans and the x-rays. I made all my instruments were properly working. I pre-game planned with the surgeon, and we talked about their operative plans. I was able to point out a level that we may want to decompress due to some central stenosis. So you're acting as a resource. You're acting as a consultant instead of this, like I said, a glorified caterer.
Yes.
And I absolutely, I love the job. And it's, as you've experienced, it's something unique. And when I was in college, I had no idea something like this existed. So shout out to my buddy Dave Fitzpatrick from Holy Cross for putting me on to MedDevice.
There's always that person, right? Gosh, this is so, I'm already into this. Greg, I'm a big fan of yours, but this is really interesting, right? Because you got D1 college experience, right? I don't know if you know Shannon Mays, but he played soccer he played soccer in college. And so just that transition in and of itself, you're so right. Learning from the team sports experience can really help you in sales. And it absolutely as a dad, I know you're a new dad. You got the 15-month-old son.
Yeah.
And
I haven't told you yet. We have another one on the way due in September.
Back to back. That's what we did. Baby. Wait, another boy?
Another boy. I'm following in your footsteps, bro.
2 boys club, man. We're 20 months apart. So what are yours going to be?
So they're going to
doing the math.
They're going to be almost 19 months apart.
Okay. All right. Get ready. Right. So it's like a day in the OR where you got 5 cases going, and especially when they're both like in diapers, just food's flying around, bottles, you don't even know what to do. There's only so much you can do. So again, like a rep, we're not scrubbed in, but you're helping. So similarly to your wife, you don't have the ability to feed, but you can help. And so it's kind of, I don't know, I've never made that analogy before. I don't even know if that's, if you're picking up on this, but dude, it's so fun when they're close in age, man, because like now mine are 7 and 9. And almost 8 and 9, right? And so they're playing sports together. During COVID, I coached them in soccer on the same team because like logistics, we didn't have a lot of options and just ended up blending that. And that was so special for me, like to be on the field, coaching them on the same team. Like COVID was a lot of things. It was terrible in a lot of ways. For me, I look for silver linings and I look for the blessings in everything. And that was just such an incredible blessing for me.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for you and your family, man. So,
appreciate it, brother.
Okay. So not to diminish pharma. I've never been in pharma, so I don't know the world, but yeah, I can get the catering aspect and we've all done that here in MedDevice, to an extent. But I think what you touched on is so important. And we get a lot of people, maybe some people that are going to be watching this episode, right, that are trying to break in, right? Again, it's not a robbery. It's hard, but you can do it if you're committed to it. And so they're looking for ways. They're looking to pick up pointers from you and I, people that have done it. And that's it right there. Like it's such you give so much, but you have to be so prepared, so dialed in. You need to know your anatomy cold. I need to be able intraoperatively, just like you, to walk over to the MRI and find exactly where that surgeon is, right? And know from all different levels, right? Actually in sagittal, and just like be able to communicate with that surgeon. We're not doctors. We're not trying to be, right? But we need to be able to communicate to them as it relates to pathology, treatment options, and at least have a conversation. It's like learning a new language. Like I can speak Spanish, I can communicate, but I'm not native tongue, right? It's kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Right. For sure.
So that's important.
And I think another key element is having a level of self-awareness right? So I look at it like this. Everything that we do, everything that we say has intention behind it, right? So when we're having a conversation with a doc, what is our intention, right? Are we trying to impress this doctor with just citing a bunch of statistics from a swab paper or a Roth and flu paper? Or are we understanding what the surgeon's objectives are, how they were trained, where they were trained, and what's important to them? Because based off of what's important to them, that's what I'm going to share, right? So if they're really focused on the biomechanics of the spine and proper sagittal alignment, well, the papers I might reference and the implants that I'm going to speak about are going to be in alignment with what his interests are relative to surgery. So again, having that level of self-awareness with
there you go.
actions and conversation is also super paramount, because what happens a lot, this happens in pharmaceutical sales, this happens in medical device sales, is that we go through training. And the company I'm with now, Medtronic, is a company I actually started my med device career with, and they have the best training, right? I mean, you and I went to training. We were in Memphis, Tennessee, and you're there for 2 weeks at a time. And what happens with a lot of people is they get out of training and they get out into the field and they get in front of the surgeons and they go, well, I learned about this, about the cervical anatomy, myelopathy, and they just started spouting out a bunch of random facts and a bunch of random statistics that the surgeon doesn't even care about. He's like, I know this.
Right.
I went to residency and fellowship. Like, what are you telling me right now? Right. So again, awareness is everything.
It's just, it's back to that language. Like you get vocabulary, right? I mean, you just got to know the terms. You got to know them. You don't need to try to impress anybody. That's a level of expectation. That's just to get into the door. Right. So, man, and that's super interesting. So, it was fun, like getting to know you, at NuVasive training, right? We did it was 3 weeks, like 3 separate 1 week trainings. And
right, it was, yeah.
If you remember, one thing that I remembered, and let's dig into this a little bit, right? Because I think people's habits, you mentioned habits, right? I think that's super important. And you had that from an early age. I'm finally discovering the power of habits now, reading James Clear, right? And digging into just ways to improve myself and the lives of those around me. Right. But I remember you were in the gym when we were going through training, right? And, I didn't really have that regimen dialed in as I do today, but you did. And is that something that you have always had? Talk to me about, like, what do you do? What are your habits? Like, what are some of those things that you recognize as, man, if I don't get this in, or if I don't do this, then my day's not as good. I'm not the Greg that I want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, tell me about that a little bit. Let's dig in there.
Yeah, I think before I get into my experience, you mentioned the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. For anybody that is interested in eliminating bad habits and introducing good habits into their being, into their daily lives, I couldn't recommend this book enough. Atomic Habits by James Clear. He breaks it down so beautifully with a number of techniques and tips and tricks that are so easily to incorporate within your daily life. It's just a matter of being consistent and making a decision when you wake up every single day and saying to yourself, am I going to show up for myself today? Or am I just going to float through life and just be? I'm going to show up. For me personally, I wake up and say, I'm going to show up for myself every single day. And we can get into this a little bit later as far as like what that looks like for me. But when it comes to habits, and again, this is tied to meditation a little bit, which I think we'll probably dive into a little bit as well. But
I would love to.
Yeah. So on almost a psychological neuroscience level, our habits are ingrained within our subconscious part of our being, right? And the subconscious part of our being is 95% of who we are. So everything from our digestive system, our respiratory system, our autonomic nervous system, belief systems that we have, stories that we told ourselves when we were really little, that we told ourselves every day for decades on end, those are part of our subconscious, right? So our habits are part of our subconscious as well. So if you're a cigarette smoker every day, you're a habitual cigarette smoker. If you come home from work every day and you pour yourself 2 glasses of scotch, well, you are a habitual 2-drink scotch drinker, right? So you can have the negative habits that are so ingrained in you that you don't even think about it. It's just automatic. Or you can have these positive attributes that are part of your habits that, such as like you mentioned with the gym. I've been working out a large part due to basketball since I was 7, 8 years old. So it's a part of who I am. So when I do not engage in these good habits, such as working out, such as meditation, I feel off. Something's going, I don't feel right. And that's a beautiful place to be, right? And it's the same thing as eating unhealthy and the same thing as eating healthy. A lot of us we tend to, if we're eating unhealthy, that's a part of who we are. So when we eat something healthy, we say, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. We can't do this. It's not difficult. It's just a change in our habits. Same thing with eating healthy. If we eat healthy all the time, our body and our chemicals within our body, our subconscious mind are so rooted within eating healthy. When we don't eat unhealthy, we feel like something's off. The grease is a little bit greasier. The fat is a little bit fattier, right? We're a little bit more lethargic because we're not used to feeling that way. We're used to feeling great after eating. We're used to feeling refueled. Now we feel lazy and dumpy after eating a whole pizza. Right?
Absolutely. Food is fuel.
So food is fuel, exactly. And I know you've been on quite the mission yourself with just getting in just amazing tip-top shape. But again, once I saw you make the consistent dedication to yourself that, hey, I'm going to show up for myself every day with this consistent routine of working out, I'm sure, and you could probably speak to it, you probably got to a place after maybe a month or two where you're like, this is just who I am. I don't even have to think. I had to push myself as hard to get to those places working out. I'm just this person now.
Yeah, Clear talks about this. And what's awesome about reading this book now, after essentially putting it into practice for 16 months, right? I started my journey April of 2020, right? I'm just going to give my life. And this was just more of a motivational thing during COVID. We weren't traveling as much. I had an opportunity to stay consistent. And that's the piece that you mentioned it, but just to highlight it, it's the consistency in the habits, just like compounding interest, right? You spent some time on Wall Street. So like when you save and you put money away in your 401k every single time, over the course of a decade, your money should double, right? Or more if you're putting it into Bitcoin. We'll talk about that later. But honestly, man, like you're making deposits into your life. And bro, just this morning, I'm back here home in Texas, but just this morning I was in Celebration, Florida, right? Had a leadership meeting out there. I gave a presentation to, and I got a great little workout in, just a little jog session, a little body weight stuff. But the cool thing about it, once it's ingrained into your daily habits, it starts to impact other things. And so we went to dinner as a group, right? There was definitely a cocktail at dinner and one glass of wine, maybe 1.5. That's it. Probably too much, right? But 2 drinks. So I'm on this thing now, and that is such a reversal from what I used to be. I used to have those opportunities with the teams and just get so caught up in the moment and just wanting to bond. And especially now when things are coming back and we're starting to gather again, the hesitation and the temptation is there to be overserved. But in the back of my mind, well, 2 things. 1, I knew I was going to work out this morning. 2, my Mavericks and Luka Doncic were about to tip off, and I wanted to watch that in my hotel room with the volume up. I didn't want to have to chit chat and miss out on Game 5.
By the way.
Dude, that was unbelievable. Like he's a special being. Born one day after me, many years after, but he's February 28th. So, but yes, thank you for bringing that up because so sorry, I'm rambling. Now reading Clear after seeing the power of habits. And now I'm reading it and I'm trying to make these small daily habits and being intentional and all those things in my career, my family. It's broadening its reach into being a father and being present for my sons, being a husband and being intentional about how I love my wife and how I treat her every single day. And again, in the job, and you're seeing it in many different ways through whether it's LinkedIn, trying to help people, trying to serve others. This podcast, which again, I was a guest on a couple, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I always kind of had it in the back of my mind, I'd like to do this. Why not? Like, why wouldn't I do it? I would love to tell the story of Greg Kinsey to my network because you are an incredible being. And
thank you.
I would love to, if you'd like to talk more, you mentioned meditation. That's not something I pray, but I don't understand the meditation space, and I know that there's a lot of well-spoken people on this. This is something that you actually lead others to do. So I'd love to hear, however you'd like to present it. I'd love to hear more about meditation.